early days for me within Zeta Psi really goes back to 1969 as a young, not quite 18-year-old freshman arriving on the campus of the University of Washington. The University of Washington is a great school, but it's also a very, very large school. And one of the reasons that I decided to pursue joining a fraternity was to find a community that would be smaller than just being lost amongst 35,000 other students. And so I went through what was then a formal rush process. I had come from out of state, so it wasn't one of those cases where I had already had a lot of friends on campus, and arrived at the week before school, maybe it was 2 weeks before school, and entered the fraternity rush process, visited many different fraternities, and it's a very, very strong Greek system at the University of Washington, so there's a lot of good choices there. But I found early on during that rush process that the chemistry between myself and the Zates was extraordinarily strong and frankly just felt natural. And at the end of the week, why the decision, despite all the choices, the decision turned out to actually be quite easy. It was kind of the Zeta Psi was in first place and everybody else was in third or fourth place. And so that really allowed me to get started as a freshman with some immediate camaraderie, as well as support for the transition between high school and college. You know, it's been an interesting 40-some years. I think the college experience has changed. I think the Greek system has changed, and I think, and this is all good, and I think Zeta Psi has changed. So as you look at the potential ways to compare and contrast that, 1969 was a tumultuous time in the United States. There was a very, very strong anti-establishment attitude, particularly on college campuses. The Vietnam War was a very, very divisive war for the United States. And it happened that I was a Naval ROTC student on top of all that. But you had this very much anti-establishment attitude, and the Greek system at that time was frankly struggling because so many people thought that was part of the establishment. And so we first few years we struggled for members. But the other thing that existed at that time was frankly traditions that today we would find either inappropriate or in some cases even embarrassing. The hazing of freshman members of fraternities was very common. That's the type of behavior that is no longer tolerated at all. The presence of kegs of beer and not to say Animal House like environments, but certainly far more risky and inappropriate as compared to what you would find either in Zeta Psi or frankly even other fraternities today. I think society has moved a long ways in a very positive way away from some of those more old stereotypical types of behaviors that were associated with fraternities. So there's been a lot of changes, and today not only is Zeta Psi larger than we've ever been, we have more chapters, we have more members per chapter, but that's a pattern across the Greek system. Fraternities have become very, very popular, and I think play a significant role on many, many campuses to complement the academic education. So I would look back on those 40-some years and say that it's been a time of significant evolutionary change, and that almost all of that has been for the good. Within Zeta Psi, honor appears in a number of places. It appears in our mission statement and how we view ourselves. It appears in our honor campaign, which is a very specific campaign to eradicate hazing. But honor is where we lift ourselves above the norm. and respect one another in ways that some might take for granted and we don't want to take for granted. So using the honor campaign as an example, when we launched that in 2012, it wasn't like we hadn't been trying to eradicate hazing for decades. We have, but with mixed results, frankly. And one of the conclusions we came to in talking to undergraduates was that part of the issue in eradicating hazing was that we were just telling them, no, don't do that. And we decided to turn that around and come at it from the other direction, so that instead of it being a negative campaign, don't do this, it became more of a positive aspirational campaign saying we are going to honor our new members the same way we honor friendship and brotherhood of our existing members, and using the word honor to put a positive spin, if you will, on the eradication of hazing. That this is something we should aspire to. This is something we should be proud of. This is something, if you see it happening, you don't tolerate it. You intervene. So I think that's a great example of where the word honor has grown to mean more than what you find in the dictionary when you look within Zeta Psi. Our now international conventions occur once a year, and they are an opportunity to accomplish a number of things. It is an opportunity to formally get delegates from each and every chapter together. That's how our constitution and bylaws are amended and changed, but it's more than a governance meeting. It's an opportunity that in parallel we run our Leadership Training Institute, gives our undergraduates an opportunity to participate in additional, whether it be leadership training, whether it be job interviewing skills, a broad array of frankly, a curriculum that adds a lot of value. But it's also a time to build the collegiality and the sense of brotherhood beyond the walls of your own particular chapter. You get to meet people from all over North America and the British Isles now. And it's a chance to build those types of collegial relationships that go beyond just your local chapter. So those things all play a role if you were to look at the agenda of the convention. But I think most importantly, the convention becomes, we only may have 200 people there. And if you think about that, that's a small representative sample of the 2,500 some odd undergraduates that are active at any one point in time. But it gives us messengers, because they can now go back to their chapter. They don't just arrive to vote as a delegate or to take advantage of the training, but they go back and they can bring that message back to their brothers at home. And if you think about it, all the different ways we try to communicate, nothing is more effective than when someone comes back and has experienced some of those issues and opportunities live. It's not a newsletter, it's not a website, it's a live interactive experience. And so I think the concept of our delegates, they arrive as delegates, but they go home as messengers. And that's an exciting process to witness as an elder and as an elder leader. It's one of our key chances to really influence what's that message that goes back. And so for me personally, it reinforces why I'm involved with Zeta Psi. It reinforces why I donate to Zeta Psi, is that you meet some very talented young men, and you get a chance to at least in some small way, if not more, to influence the way that Zeta Psi works for them. And so I've been coming out of the last, I'm going to say 11 conventions. I've been to 10. Earlier in my business career, I wasn't able to attend as many, but I still remember my first convention. I was the undergraduate Phi at the University of Washington, and so I represented Phi Lambda, and I flew from Seattle to Halifax, Canada, arrived in Halifax, knew no one, literally no one. The University of Washington at that time was was somewhat isolated from other chapters, unlike maybe in New England or the Mid-East, where you have chapters within driving range of each other. So I literally arrived in Halifax not knowing a single person. And 4 days later, left with friends, left feeling a part of something far larger than what I had understood. And I'd been a member for 3 years and suddenly realized I was part of something far larger and more significant. So convention plays that role as well. When asked about advice, the first thing that comes to my mind is that joining a fraternity is not an end in itself. Joining a fraternity is an opportunity. And some people take advantage of that opportunity, and others, frankly, miss that opportunity. And if someone arrives thinking that a fraternity is just a place to live, that it's just a place to have fun, not that that's going to be a bad experience, but what a missed opportunity to take advantage of the challenges of learning to live together, the challenges of managing all types of frankly, business-like issues. You have to collect money, you have to raise money, you have to pay bills. I mean, all those things sound fairly mundane, but as you begin to scale that up and run the operation of a house with 40, 50, sometimes 60 or 70 brothers living together, those are all opportunities to learn both leadership and managerial skills. And again, if you take advantage of that, I think you leave college far better prepared for whatever you intend to do. The only real thing I think I would like to add is that I hope as people watch these videos, and there's obviously a wide range of ages being interviewed, there's a wide range of backgrounds and careers, is to look at these videos in the context of not only am I part of a college fraternity, but I'm part of a lifelong fraternity. That here are these guys, I don't know I'm trying to remember who the oldest person was that was going to be interviewed here, but whether they be 80 years old, 70 years old, 60 years old, 30 years old, are the alumni that choose to remain active and involved, it becomes a lifelong type of membership.